A person who doesn't love basketball. How can he become the future face of the NBA? A person who devours 21 bags of chips a week and orders fried chicken after games. How can he become the next Michael Jordan? But back on the spotlight focus court. A creator of explosive plays who takes on anyone. A confident and passionate young man from the 2000s. Why can't he stand at the peak in the future? His name is Anthony Edwards. Not only does he have the face of a born superstar and a 1 in a million physique, his strong heart and wild personality are also reasons why many believe he will take over the future. Despite his arrogant nickname, Edwards has a bitter and painful growth history. Hello, I'm Xiao Meng. Welcome back to Basketball Figures. Born on August 5, 2001, in Atlanta, Georgia, his father left him nothing but the nickname Ant-Man, and little else related to fatherly love in his childhood. From the age of 5, Edwards was raised by his mother and grandmother to keep the children away from the darkness of the community. He encouraged Edwards and his siblings to engage in sports. Unlike adults, his sports genes led Edwards to his first sport, football. Running and colliding on the green field made him the center of attention, and his mother and grandmother sitting on the sidelines were one of the reasons he wasn't afraid to charge into battle. After becoming the best football player among his peers, Edwards' coach and family began to envision him as a future star in the NFL. But at the age of 9, a football game fractured his ankle. To avoid further injury, Edwards began training his leg muscles at home. Meanwhile, his attention shifted to basketball, often played by his brother. After the cast on his ankle was removed, Edwards unlocked his first dunk in life. Since then, he fell in love with basketball. From then on, an Ant-Man who freely soared on the basketball court emerged. Edwards and his brother would compete in their grandmother's backyard at 6 a.m. Although he always lost, he always longed for victory. Whether it was football, basketball, or any competitive sport, even when playing poker with his siblings, he tried to be the best. And the competitive Edwards happened to have an extraordinary physique. As the youngest child in the family, he was the biggest, once dominating the green field. After honing his basketball fundamentals, he could shine on the wooden floor as well. Smooth fadeaway jump shots, dunks over all defenders. His outstanding performance on the basketball court made Edwards a household name in Atlanta. But just as all the spectators were cheering for him on and off the court, a family tragedy struck. In 2015, Edwards' mother passed away from cancer, and before he could fully recover from the grief of his mother's death, his grandmother's cancer recurred. Months later, Edwards and his siblings buried their grandmother. Always presenting himself with laughter and dance, he never showed sadness in public. Even at just 14 years old, having lost the two most important women in his life, Edwards still emotionlessly told his brother, "I want to make them proud." But everyone knew how hard it was for him. After losing the pillars of the family, Edwards' sister, 6 years his senior, found a new home for the three boys and took over Edwards' guardianship, continuing to support her brother's education. Because his mother and grandmother both died on the 5th of the month, and he was born on the 5th, Edwards changed his jersey number, carrying the expectations of his mother and grandmother. He began to train desperately. He no longer wanted to see his family waiting to die in poverty. He needed basketball as a job to secure his family's livelihood. He wanted to make it to the NBA. Having experienced unimaginable pain at his age, Edwards also had an awareness beyond his peers. He didn't even need a coach to urge him to train hard. At 15, after one-on-one challenges with several NBA players, Edwards realized he wasn't far from the NBA. After becoming a well-known top high school player in the country, Edwards received athletic scholarships from basketball powerhouses like Kentucky and North Carolina. But in his heart, family was always the most important. So he chose the University of Georgia, closest to home. Moreover, the head coach there, Tom Crean, had coached Wade at Marquette University and Oladipo at Indiana University. Both players entered the NBA from a high draft position as shooting guards. and Edwards' draft model was exactly Wade. After arriving at the University of Georgia, Edwards' athletic ability shocked the team's fitness coach, Sean Hayes. Having worked in the NFL, he exaggeratedly said that among the players he had trained, only 2 football players could match Edwards' physicality. And even more incredible was Edwards' monstrous stamina. After 3 hours of training, when his teammates were dragging their tired bodies out of the gym, Edwards could still complete various difficult dunks with a smile on his face. In his first physical test at college, Edwards' vertical jump reached 100 centimeters, which is already among the top 10 in the NBA rookies. And in less than a month and a half, his jump height increased by another 5 centimeters. Head coach Tom Crean was full of praise for Edwards' physical talent. He believed Edwards' athletic ability had surpassed that of Wade and Oladipo at the same time. In other words, this was the most talented player he had ever. In the delayed 2020 online NBA draft, Anthony Edwards' name was called by the Minnesota Timberwolves, who held the first overall pick. Also catching the eye were 2 portraits beside him. "I want to share everything that's happening today with my mom and grandma," he said. "They would be proud of me." 5 years ago, at his grandmother's funeral, Edwards told his brother those words, which have now come true. Edwards' NBA career has officially begun. As the Southern kid comes to the distant North, Minnesota's challenges are not just the weather, but also the higher level of competition. Ryan Saunders, the Timberwolves coach at the time, had no intention of starting the first overall pick, nor would he design plays around him. In contrast, the 3rd overall pick, already being groomed as the core by the Hornets, not only became a regular on the top plays, but also the youngest player in NBA history to achieve a triple-double. Yet Edwards seemed to be getting closer to the label of a draft bust. Fortunately, the concern from the team's big brother, Towns, who had lost family members during a difficult time, eased Edwards' anxiety. Also a former first pick, Towns guided Edwards through his early struggles in the league. On February 20th, 2021, Edwards, facing Yuta Watanabe, returned to the spotlight with a thunderous dunk. This dunk, almost instantly deemed the dunk of the season, was broadcast non-stop on platforms worldwide. This dunk opened Edwards' energy channels. Before this, Edwards had 4 consecutive games with a shooting percentage below 30%. After this game, Edwards repeatedly broke his own career-high scoring records. He's not just physically developed. His skills are also top-notch. In an away game against the Suns, he scored a career-high 42 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, becoming the 3rd youngest player in NBA history to score over 40 points. He was selected to the All-Rookie first team at the end of the season. In his 2nd year, under new coach Chris Finch, Edwards transformed. 30 and 40-point scoring records came easily, and the Timberwolves returned to the playoffs. For years after Jimmy Butler's departure, in the summer of 2023, the Timberwolves' main rotation almost all went to the international stage, and the most shining was Edwards. Initially, when Coach Kurt tried to discuss him playing off the bench, Edwards refused. Kurt told him that even Wade played as a substitute for Kobe on the 2008 Redeem team. But Edwards said, "We don't have a Kobe on our team." So he donned the number 10 jersey, becoming the leader of the USA team, and was later selected to the World Cup All-Star team. After the international experience, Edwards completely transformed, taking on the role of team leader. The Timberwolves' regular season record soared to 1st in the West. When Kenny Smith asked him how he evolved from playing well himself to making the whole team play well, Edwards confidently said, "I think playing in the USA team, the World Cup this summer, I think that changed my perspective about everything. Being able to play with your team, playing within the game, and not just try to play isolation ball all day. Playing within a system." And Finchy, Minnesota coach Chris Finch, does a great job of making sure I stay within the system. For the city of Minnesota, they haven't made it past the first round of the playoffs since the last generation's Wolf King. Edwards' rise has given them more confidence. They love his various basket-bombing performances, his jump shots, reminiscent of that Chicago pickled egg, On the wall of the Target Center's third-floor atrium, they replaced last season's mural of the Wolves with just Edwards. They seem to have never believed in someone like they once believed in Garnett, and they have finally found that person. As for Edwards, he once bluntly stated, "If the NFL had chosen me, I would leave the NBA tomorrow." Because for him, football is his first love. The sport his mother and grandmother accompanied him in the longest, seeing him train desperately for basketball, even hitting the backboard to block opponents for victory. How can we say he doesn't love basketball? For the new Wolf King, he never thought of unloading the mission on his shoulders. When I wear the championship ring or the Olympic gold medal, my mom and grandma will surely be prouder of me, he said.